that have made them successful. Now my excitement to kind of walk you through some of the awesome things that have gone on during this energy week. So if you haven't been participating all along, make sure that you check out webank.org/energy week. We have had a blog every single day. So we have a WBEs and energy blog that has gone over all of our WBEs and energy on this webinar, as well as some others. We have today a wonderful blog written by our moderator, Dave Feldman. We also have some coffee with corporates in the energy industry featured this week. And then we have a blog that featured all of the amazing things that our corporations that are a part of WBEnk's Energy Industry Advisory Board have been doing to support their community throughout the COVID crisis pandemic. So please join us. Our hashtag is #WBEs in energy on social media. So make sure and tag us as we go through this webinar today. Support these WBEs, and we can't wait to learn more. So with that, it's my honor to turn it over to one of the best advocates for WBEs and diverse suppliers that I know, Mr. Dave Feldman with Chevron. Turn it over to you, Dave.
Great, Lindsay, thank you so much. And it is truly my honor to moderate today's panel. We have a very distinguished, capable, successful group of women business owners and entrepreneurs, all of which who have had a good amount of success in our oil and gas industry, and are here to share their insights and a little bit about the histories about their companies and their engagement with the oil and gas industry. And I said each have had successful engagements, and each is here to help you understand what opportunities there may be for you and your company in our industry. So we are joined today, and each of them will introduce themselves a little bit more completely, but just to let you know who is with us today. So there's Donna Cole from Cole Chemical and Distributing, Anabel Daly with Daly Instruments Corporation, Dr. Dana Wells with Dana Wells and Associates, Vanessa Ingalls with Diamond Tea Services, and Lilly Stotland with Vesco Oil Corporation. So welcome to you all, and thank you so much for joining us. I can tell our audience that we, although we have, as I mentioned, a very distinguished group, we were gathered on rather short notice, and each of them has graciously agreed to participate literally within the last few days. So thank you for doing that and putting yourself out there as you have. And now I'd like our audience to know a little bit about more about you and your companies. So I'll give each of you a moment to sort of briefly introduce yourself and your company. And if it's okay, Donna, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me here today. I really enjoy sharing. So I'm Donna Cole with Cole Chemical and Distributing. I actually started the company in 1980. I was 27 years old at the time, and in the industry for about 4 years when our customers asked me to start Cole Chemical because they were looking for a qualified company to purchase from to meet their minority and women-owned goals. So we've been doing business in the industry, upstream, downstream, and midstream with chemicals. We supply lubricants. We also supply fuels and specialty chemicals. So thank you.
Great, Donna, thank you. Anabel?
I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Anabel Daly, and I'm the CEO and owner of Daly Instruments Corporation. It's made up of Daly Thermometrics and Daly Thermal Control, and we specialize in making temperature sensors for the industry of energy and in the aerospace. It's been here since 1973.
Great, Anabel. I think you were finished. Dana, can we hear from you next?
Yes, good afternoon. Good morning, Dr. David Wells. CEO and principal of Dana Wells and Associates, a management consulting firm located here in Houston, Texas. We are hired by our energy leaders to help them reduce people risks that cause a 70% failure rate of capital improvement and operational excellence projects. And we work with companies implementing digital transformations, mergers or acquisitions, or implementing new growth strategies. My company's been in business for about 10 years now, and I've been a certified WBE for 2 years.
Thank you, Dana. Vanessa, could you go next, please?
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Vanessa Ingalls, and I am CEO and owner of Diamond T Services. We are a leading provider of upstream field services and equipment rentals to the oil and gas and utility industries. Our core businesses include management of drilling fluids and waste streams coming from the well during the drilling processes. We provide operators with all their surface equipment needs, from loaders to light towers. We do spill containment installation across several different industries, rig and access matting rentals and installation. And we also have a utilities division that does right-of-way services. We have offices throughout the US, and we also provide all of our services throughout the US with locations in Colorado, North Dakota, Texas, and Pennsylvania, and Wyoming. I began my time Diamond T in 2014. I actually purchased Diamond T with the money that I had made from running a previous small but successful oil and gas equipment rental company. It was a struggling company that we turned around and made profitable in a matter of months. So we were pretty excited about that. And we've grown the company today from a 25-person company into a 100-person plus company. And I've been a WBE since 2015, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Lilly, can we hear a little bit more about you and your company?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I'm Lilly Epstein Stotland, President and CEO of Vesco Oil Corporation, headquartered in Detroit, Michigan, yay Motor City. And we are a third-generation family-owned business started in 1947 by my late grandfather. And we sell a variety of automotive and industrial lubricants and currently operate in 10 Midwest states. So great to be with everybody today.
Thank you. And for our audience, again, thank you to each of you for joining us today. And we are committed to saving some time at the end to ask questions. And I think in the meantime, if you have questions, if you could put them in the chat, and then we'll save some time at the end of our discussion for questions from the audience. And again, our goal here is to help each of you in the audience knowing or believing that, at least in part, the reason you're listening is because you're interested in opportunities in the oil and gas industry, and to hear from these folks who have been successful will help you along that path to explore for opportunities in our industry. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and start in our first question. And I have a different question for each of you, having looked at your profiles, all of which are enormously impressive. But Lilly, since you were last to introduce yourself, I'll start with you if you don't mind. You mentioned that yours is a family-owned business and you're a third-generation owner. I happen to know from your profile that you're a Harvard grad, MBA from Michigan, have a very impressive academic record, graduated from all those amazing institutions with honors. And you could, I'm sure, could have done anything, had lots of opportunities to do lots of things, but yet you have come home to the family business. My question is, was there ever a time where you thought about doing something else? And obviously you haven't. So what brought you back home to the family business?
You're too kind. But, my experience, I had a very short prior career before joining our business. I was an investment banker on Wall Street for Goldman Sachs. And what really brought me back to the business was, unfortunately, I was involved in the events of 9/11. So I was in the collapse of the towers, and it had a very profound impact on my life. And I guess just kind of refocused for me what my priorities are. And I always knew that I wanted to join the family business, but being in that sort of an experience kind of focused for me what I wanted to do. I wanted to find a sense of purpose. And I've really found that in our business. And I just enjoy it. I find the industry so challenging, so interesting. It's fun to be a WBE in a male dominated world. I really enjoy it. And I'm so grateful to, as much as that experience was tragic, I feel grateful that I lived through it. I experienced it and I learned a lot from it.
Wow. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that very, very personal perspective. I didn't necessarily expect that. Vanessa, if it's okay, I'll go to you next. And again, I've had the opportunity to look at your profile as well, and you have been on a path in the oil and gas industry for some time. You have a degree in geologic engineering from the Colorado School of Mines, and have worked in a very core aspects of the oil and gas business. So my question is, what some might call you a rock hound, which is meant to be a compliment. So how is it that you develop such a keen interest in the extractive industry and even at such a young age? Tell us about that.
Sure, thanks. I don't mind being called a rock hound because, oh my goodness, I spent so much of my allowance money at the local lapidary when I was a kid, buying all sorts of rocks and minerals. And so maybe it was a fate that it just happened, but it actually, I didn't even think about geology as a career till later on. I always loved science. So I guess Colorado School of Mines was a natural path for me. At the time I went to mines, there was only 20% women enrolled, which is common for engineering and sciences, but I think it's a little bit higher these days. So when I went to mines, petroleum found me. I love geology and I also love investigation, but at the time I was very actually passionate in environmental advocacy. I wanted to do something that, made a change for whatever I did. I wanted to clean the environment. But I fell in love with petroleum because it was so interesting to try and understand what's beneath your feet, because no mathematical equation can tell you. It's a mystery. You have to kind of put the pieces all together and hope you're right. And it's very rewarding when you are. So when I found petroleum, I realized I could take my love for the environment and bring it into my work in petroleum. And it's funny, that's what I'm doing today in my business, actually, is finding new ways to solve environmental problems and reduce people's carbon footprint in their waste stream. And we're actually saving money too, so doing that. So it was a combination, I think, of all things from early on to not realizing, how that would end to now being a business owner. But that's kind of my story.
Well, it comes to you very naturally. So thanks for that answer. Dana, but if you don't mind being next. So we have at least 2 doctors on the panel that I'm aware of, and there may be more, and we'll get to the other one shortly. But everyone seems to know Dr. Dana. You're known wide and far across this network and others. And I would guess that is not by accident, that you've been very intentional and made a considerable investment in your personal brand, which I'm sure you believe is important to your success. So I'd like for you to share with the audience, if you don't mind, how you've gone about developing your personal brand and how you see it as being of benefit and value to you.
I appreciate that. Dave, when I saw the question, it brought tears to my eyes because of the reason for the Dr. Dana name. When I started redoing my core values, company values of past, partnership, authenticity, simplicity, and transparency, one of my coaches said, if you're saying your company's authentic, you need to tell your story. So it took me about 5 to 6 months to get up the courage to talk about my past. I'm a daddy's girl. My dad was a Vietnam era veteran. And when I was 10, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia due to Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. So he was a breadwinner of our family. We have 7 people in our family, and after he got sick, he couldn't work. So my mom had to take care of us with a high school diploma. And sometimes there was no food, there was no heat, no water, just basic necessities were gone. But at that time, before that time, my dad taught me courage and my mom taught me independence. So I stepped up to help with the family. My parents got divorced because there was domestic violence. There was just so much going on, and my mom had to survive and take care of us. So so I guess 25 years later, I had my last conversation with my dad before he died. He died 15 years ago, and he told me, "I want you to get your PhD." And I told him I would, and he told me how proud he was of me. He's apologized for not being there for us, and I made that commitment to do that. So my name, Dr. Dana, is to honor my dad and to honor all of the veterans out there who have sacrificed for our country. Going through the program, it was difficult. I had challenges in my doctoral program that I won't even talk about, but I made that commitment to my dad and I followed through with that. So every time somebody calls me Dr. Dana, that's my dad, acknowledging my dad. And it's very important, even with the trials of owning a business, it's very important. And I know he's standing right here beside me saying, "You can do it, keep it going." So that's why everybody calls me Dr. Dana, and that's my personal brand. With regard to the company, with Dana Wells and Associates, you will get someone and a whole group of people who will stand by you with your business when it's tough to help you get to your next level. So that's the brand.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that story. That's an amazing and enormously compelling story. And I've known you for a while, but did not know that story. So thank you for sharing it. So Anabel, we'll go to you next, if you don't mind. You describe yourself as a transformational leader, and I have no doubt that that's true. One who inspires and motivates. I think that's something as leaders, and all of us are leaders in our own way. We all aspire to be that sort of transformational leader, one that it inspires and motivates. So can you tell us about your journey, particularly in terms of leadership? And speaking of doctors, you're a physician as well. You're an MD, a different kind of doctor, but nonetheless an MD. And so my question is, one, are you still practicing in some way? And second, how do you go from being a doctor to an owner of a company that makes temperature sensors? So that was sort of a 3-part question. One about your leadership, 2 about your story as a physician, and your journey, your leadership journey to be the president of the company that you are now.
Okay, so thank you for having me. First of all, it's an honor to be on such a panel with such successful women and to see this. My journey started with love and passion. I fell in love with a man in the 90s who actually started the company. And I was full blown doing surgery and very excited about my own career. And through our lives together, we became very familiar with our specialties and always talking about businesses. And it was very exciting. He graduated from Harvard, Harvard Business MBA. And, so our journey began that way with a love and passion for discussing our own businesses. And then, interesting enough, business is business. Synergistically, there were some things that, for instance, we incorporated x-rays into our machinery, into our instrumentations here. And that came from the medical side. So I had a very miraculous brief recovery from cancer. And so it was time for me to go back to work. And we, as a family, decided going back part-time to that environment at the time would probably be better for my health. So the next part of the journey was starting to develop the business in the international market, which I felt that we felt that would be good. And so I started developing the international part of our business because we are a worldwide manufacturing company. And so I took that on and developed it as time went by. As I got more and more into the business, I became vice president of the business. I went back to school, got a master's in business administration from Rice. And then, unfortunately, my husband developed cancer and he passed on in 2016. And I had already felt that love and the passion that continues. I practice part-time still. I'll be recovering by 100% here, or doing 100% here. And that part of my journey, I will be, I'm going to just leave the medical in next year. So where I'm just 100% here.
Thank you, Anabel. Listen, I don't know about doing business with Chevron, but I got this thing in my shoulder. Maybe you could take a look at it. On Donna Cole, I would like to talk to you next. And this is not so much about your business, but many people know this, and I certainly do. But you also have a sort of not so secret second life in the performing arts. I know that you are a co-producer of a series of theatrical performances, which I believe for the most part highlight powerful and successful women, and plus a number of other artistic endeavors. So could you tell us a little bit more about that, how you got into that, and how you have time for it, given that you're the president and CEO of Co Chemical?
Yeah, so quite interesting. First of all, I have to say I have some great employees, right? And we have some great processes in place to allow me to spend some time in this arts area. So I like to think of it as my right brain, left brain. But, when I first started the company, the corporation said you needed to do 4 things, Donna. And that was have a commitment to grow the business, put iron in the ground, hire minorities and women, and give back to community. And then I added one more, which was we should have a ripple effect of that economic dollar. And so I should be reporting what Cole Chemical does with other minority and women business owners in terms of what we purchase. So that was back in 1985. And then, of course, I was on the board of the Houston Minority Business Council, and we actually helped start the Women's Business Council in Houston. So from that, I realized, in all of these talks, you do have to go back and look at your life and what are you doing? And I realized that when I was 6, 7 years old, I was bullied in elementary school because I was Asian and not white or not Hispanic, because I grew up in South Texas. So, I could have grown up bitter and angry, but I chose the opposite side, which was I wanted to share, I wanted to give back, I wanted to be of help to people. And so when the corporations asked me to do that, to give back to community, I watched what they did with United Way and other organizations and events. And then I realized, probably 20 years later, that I can only mentor so many business owners and so many students and so many young professionals in a year. I don't have that kind of time. But if I told a great story about a strong woman with supportive men, I could probably educate, empower, and help other women see themselves in a better light, and have men and boys see women in a better light to change our lives and their community. So that's what I've been doing in that end, in terms of telling great stories about strong women, because I think it's really important that women and men see women in good roles and men doing good things and supporting women. How I have the time to do that is because I've got some good people and I have lots of energy, Dave. I only sleep about 3 hours a night.
Okay, well, well said. And thank you for that answer, and thank all of you to those amazing responses to that question, which was rather personal. And I think the vulnerability and transparency and sincerity that all of you have demonstrated is is very compelling. So thank you for your So on to the next set of questions, which are going to be a bit more business focused. And, you know, I've told the panelists, and I will tell the audience that we're not necessarily expecting each panelist to answer every question. But certainly if you have a response that you're dying to get out, please jump in. But I'll start with question number one, which is more specific to our industry and all of our companies that are represented here as sponsors of Energy Week, which is British Petroleum, BP, Shell, ExxonMobil, and Chevron. Each of them among the largest corporations in the world, and all very complex. I have heard not just women business owners, but all manner of small business owners, whether it be minority, LGBTQ, disability-owned businesses, have difficulty navigating these institutions or even knowing where to get started. And each of you have done so successfully. So at a very high level, quite simply, how have you done that? And if you don't mind, I'll start with Vanessa.
Sure. You know what I found most effective when I began, I didn't do it the most effective. I'd kind of wait for my connections, you know, that I would make at these WBEs conferences to help me navigate. And then I quickly realized I had to, you know, take matters into my own hands and figure out what they wanted and gain intel. So I would lead with my capabilities, specifically my insurance limits, my health and safety score. I was in ISNet world. I wanted them to know right away that I can work for them and I have the capabilities to work for a large company. And I also went and did my research and figured out exactly who I needed to talk to, which sometimes takes a lot of time. And I would go to the diversity managers and say, this is who I need a meeting with, and this is why. And it was built on several years of relationships, and mainly through WBEs. Chevron is a good example. We're currently working for them for the first time, and it was a long process, but Dave helped me and several other people helped me navigate how to do that. And I was successful in doing it, I think, because of their hard work, but I needed to know and ask specifically who I needed to go talk to, and then they facilitated it. So that helps a lot.
Thank you, Vanessa. Anabel, anything that in terms of how you've been able to navigate the very complex oil and gas industry?
I think historically, you know, being able to provide the instrumentations, being able to meet the client's needs, you know, safely give them the solutions that are needed, know exactly what the major companies need and what they want as well. Because as we sit here and we're talking about, you know, how do you get to do business with large, you know, Fortune 500 companies, is you have to maintain safety and know what their expectations are. Be able to, you know, this WBEs has had great training programs. The sponsors provide a supportive, you know, supplier development programs, and take advantage of the things that are out there for us, self-educate and what's needed to be successful and to provide safety and to provide what is needed with the client.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else care to chip into that? If not, I'm happy to go on to the next question. All right, so let's move on then. You know, things are changing for sure, perhaps ever so slowly. And some of you have touched on this in your introductory remarks, but I think it's hard to argue with the fact that oil and gas remains a male-dominated industry. Given that it's difficult for any smaller company to do business in this industry, do you think there's even more barriers for women-owned businesses? And if you think that, if there are, how have you been able to overcome them? And Dr. Dana and by the way, you'll always be Dr. Dana to me from this point forward. What would you say to that?
I don't believe in barriers. I think for me personally, barriers are in your mind, or I would say in my mind. What I look at is a couple of things. One, what is the product or service am I offering? I help these companies with large scale transformations, mergers, acquisitions, helping them complete these projects on time and on budget. The last thing what I want a client to be worried about is me or my team's race or gender. It's, do we deliver, period. And so that's key. So once we do that, all of that, the barriers, again, they're in your mind. The second thing is that we really have to get beyond this male-dominated industry. People don't know what people miss out when they think about our gender. And with the complex changes happening right now, it's all hands on deck to help with this energy transition. So we've got to help people see the bigger picture. I'm glad that a lot of companies are being more forthright and intentional and being inclusive. So we've got to catch that wave and get out there and show our value.
That's a great answer. Thank you. And you should have stopped me from asking that question, but it is at least a perception. At least, Lilly, anything to add to this notion of specific barriers for women in the oil and gas business?
I couldn't agree with Dr. Dana more. I think being a WBE, being a woman in this industry is something cool and unique, and differentiates us. It's certainly I don't lead with gender. I don't think our business really considers gender, but it is part of who we are, and I think that it helps to distinguish us with our suppliers and with our customers, and allows us certain opportunities, I think, that we wouldn't have otherwise. So I think it's only a plus.
Right, thank you, Donna. With regard to being a woman in an industry which has traditionally been Dana, I don't want to say that well. What's it been like for you as a woman leading a major chemical company that works in the oil and gas industry?
I think it's actually been a double-edged sword. It's one of those times when being a woman can be a disadvantage, and being a woman is an advantage, because in some cases people want to see what you look like. And so I think that's a plus, because you can get your foot in the door that maybe you might not otherwise. I think the other is that women do bring a different perspective in times, and actually ask some really good questions is what I've noticed. But I think today's time is a wonderful time if you're out there trying to get into this industry and do business, is that, you go to the company's website, you get on their vendor list, you go to these conferences, you meet people like Dave, but you really do have to talk about your capabilities and what you can deliver. And it is, as Vanessa said, you have to know who you need to talk to. You have to know the department, the product, where they're using it, the service, to be able to help Dave out, right? Because Dave doesn't know everything about Chevron and what they buy. And so, we have to help them as well. It's a hard sell inside and out. But I think today what we find is women really work hard to do the right thing, to have the right product, the right service at the right time, and be able to ask the questions and measure it properly for companies to be able to tell that you're highly qualified and that they should give you an opportunity.
Thank you. And I'm going to break my rule here, because I think this is an important question, and I think it and break my own rule in that I would ask that each of you respond to this next question, because I think it's key to what our audience. I mean, many we know at the end of the day, and we talked about it in our preparations, that many of our audience are looking to get their foot in the door in the industry. And so I would guess, if you don't mind being somewhat brief, but what's your best piece of advice for those women-owned women business owners who have not yet managed to get their foot in the door, but aspire to. So what's your best piece of advice? Lilly, can we start with you?
Sure. Well, I think that attending things like this is actually a good step. Networking within the WBE is a great place to start. So many resources there. Researching who the players are in the industry and kind of understanding where your interests and talents lie, and then kind of honing in and reaching out proactively, I think, to the companies and to people in the niche that you're interested in pursuing.
Great, thank you. Donna, would you mind going next?
Sure. I think networking is really key. Who is already doing business in the area, and where can you work together with them? I think today's time is not that we can be lone mavericks anymore. We're co-oping with a lot of different chemical companies in the industry for drilling and production, and going global with them, taking them with us to different places. And so I think it's a matter of, does somebody have enough trucking companies? Do they have enough people in marketing who are helping them, and to reach out to us and see where we can give you advice? The other is that, it's so hard these days with the internet, because people are using their cell phones, right? You used to have a landline that you would call, and when that buyer was gone, you just kept calling that number and you get the next buyer. Well, that's not true in today's time. So now you have LinkedIn. I think you need to use all that technology as well. There's also, like for us in the chemical industries, there's the chemical industry, there's a PAC, there's also ISM. So there's a lot of places where these same companies all come together, and you can find opportunity there. So that's what I would do today, rather than starting when I did. It's a little different.
Great, thank you. Vanessa, your best piece of advice for women business owners aspiring to work in the industry?
I think you really have to think long and hard. I mean, or you may already have the idea or the product, but you have to find your niche. In my industry, a light tower is a light tower, right? There's plenty of them out there, and there's plenty of oil field service companies out there, but what makes you different? And what value can you give to your customer? And it has to be real value and, proven value. A lot of times we do pilot studies with our customers where we say, hey, we can save you $100,000 a well, and we will show you how to do that at a reduced price, and when we do that, you'll give us a contract, and we all agree and everybody's happy because there's low risk for the customer. They don't have to pay anything more. And we, have a solution, and if we're successful, we end up with a contract, and that usually helps things like that. Or we also have to be very creative with our pricing structure. Sometimes, you just don't know what your customer's concerns are, because every customer is different. So you have to listen, and we really adapt because we're small enough. We can adapt our pricing or our equipment. We can provide new solutions on the fly. And that has really been successful for us.
Great, thank you. Anabel and then Dana, your best pieces of advice for aspiring women-owned business owners to get into the industry.
I think that a lot of us take time into consideration, and we think, oh gosh, it takes so much time to foster relationships, but it doesn't. It just takes time to do that, because we have to build trust and tell people what we do. And then it's putting in the time, taking advantage of all of the WBEs, what they have to offer, what the sponsors have to offer, get educated. Very important to get educated. Know that we have different size companies here. I mean, you may not be the first tier, but you can bundle with somebody to be second, third tier. There's different ways. Know the complete supply chain of what the project is or what the client is doing, and find different ways to do business with them.
Thank you. And Dr. Dana?
I agree with everything everyone said, and I'll add this additional piece. Get out in the trade association meetings, get visible there. My company is a supporting sponsor of the Houston Energy Breakfast, and they bring in thought leaders to talk about what's going on in the industry 4 times a year. My company is branded there. I have visibility doing some things in this space. And then also the Houston Strategy Forum. You have leaders from the industry there. They spotlight special topics in the energy space. So find the trade associations, get involved there. Some of these people that you're trying to do business with are in those rooms. And if you're not fully familiar with the full gamut of the oil and gas sector of the energy industry, go to Rice's Energy and Environmental Initiative training program, the exec ed program there. It's amazing, you know, and then the WeBank Energy Executive Program is equally phenomenal. Get involved, get the training, get access, get exposure to build those relationships.
Thank you. Great answers, all of you. So we've just spent a good amount of time talking about things that you ought to do and have done well or right in the past. I think it might be equally instructive to hear from you about something that you may have done wrong. So my question, the way I have phrased it is, can you think of something in relative to your experience in the industry that you will never do again? And Dana, Dr. Dana, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so what I'll never do again is be quiet. During the time I was, let's see, from 2010 to 2011 to 2018, I was doing my doctoral program while doing consulting projects. And so Donna, I was getting the 2 to 3 hours of sleep at night. You know, some of these were global, so I had to travel and I reserved my energy. So I wasn't speaking as much as I could have. And it's so funny, somebody told me about a month ago, I didn't know you could talk. So being more active, being in the WBEA, everybody wants you to pitch and get active and talk about your business and what you're doing. And I will never be quiet again. I'm going to present some of my dissertation findings here on oil price disruption and parallel the 2014-16 oil price shock to what's happening now. So, you know, just getting out here, letting people know what I'm about. I will never I'll never be quiet again.
You're great. Vanessa, what about you? Something that you've done that you'll never do again?
Probably being unprepared, going into a customer's office thinking they wanted to talk about one thing and being fully prepared to talk about that one thing. I mean, as a business owner, I mean, I have very capable employees that, you know more than I do about a lot of things we do. And I fully admit that. And that's why I have them surrounding me. So I usually now just let my customer lead with what they want to talk about. Don't force it down their throat and try and make them, you know, sit through my painful PowerPoint presentation and really read their faces and make sure that, you know, I'm making sure that I'm taking care of their concerns and what they really want to be there to talk about.
Great. Excellent advice on what not to do. Donna, do you have a never do again?
I'll have to agree with Vanessa on that one. I've done that as well, going in thinking I want to talk about this and I was off. They wanted to talk about something else. I think the other is not having your NDAs in place is another area that I've learned about. The other is people who say, you know, we're working on this and we wish we had somebody in this area. And then I took that as a sign that I should go and do that without a contract and without more information. And so what you did is I've spent some time and money in an area, and it was just something that it was on someone's wish list, but not really a project that the corporation was working on, right? And so at the end of the day, when I go back to the person, they're like, oh, well, no, that's not what I meant, right? Or if you decided to get into that line, that was on you because that was a business decision that you made, not something that we were asking you to do.
Okay, great answers, all of you. And if I'm going to move on to the next question, Lily, I'm going to start with you. But all of you have expressed a lot of positive results from your participation in the WBEs network, both at the national and regional levels. But I'm sure you have heard, as I have, women business owners and other small business owners sort of complain about these networks, and often what they may say is that yes, first of all, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, in some cases can take a lot of money, and yes, I meet a lot of people along the way, but none of it or not enough of it has translated into business, so it's really just not worth my trouble. So my question, what do you say to that, to those individuals who've expressed that perspective? Lily, I'll start with you.
I would say I agree. WBENC is a great certification to have. It's true. It's a painstaking process. It takes commitment. It takes time to apply, to get recertified, to maintain that certification. And I've worked with several companies in that process who wanted advice as they were going through the process. But I'll say that while we were going through it, asking other WBEs questions, and then now in my case, helping others who are looking to be certified, we've made so many friendships and relationships. Not only, of course, we've gained contracts from having the certification and things that we wouldn't otherwise have gotten, but the connections that we've made through the events, through these forums, and through the certification process has really benefited our company.
Great, thank you. Anabel, I know that you have spoken a lot about your association with the WBEs network and how it has benefited you and your company. What do you say to those, in this case, women business owners who think it's too much trouble, too much money, too much time, not worth it?
Okay, so just to give a history, this did not become a women-owned business until really 2017. And when I first started going to the WBENC events and so forth, it was overwhelming because you're seeing these huge events and you're thinking, wow, where do you go? And you're overwhelmed by these the whole setup, right? Because it can be a little bit intimidating because you don't know people, and it just takes time as a personal relationships, even to build business relationships. I would say, put the time to get your trust, your mutual respect, your understanding of where you are. There's so many opportunities there there's big decision makers, there's the sponsors. I mean, WBEs gives you all these people that are big decision makers are in one place. It's not the world. It seems like a gigantic place to start navigating. But as you do this over and over again, it just gets so much easier. You start to recognize who's who. And I just think that it just takes time, and put aside the huge event that it seems like it's going to be, because the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Thank you. Dr. Dana, I see you nodding your head. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, so nobody ever believes me, but I'm an introvert, functioning extrovert. So maximize my time. So what I do in these events, they are overwhelming for me. So COVID-19 has kind of been a welcome opportunity, but I stepped out of my business last year to truly understand the network, attending the training sessions. April Day, my president of WBEA, said, you know what? I've seen you here all the time. What's your pitch? And Shirley Brooks, the WBC director, I was in the training to understand how this network works, understand the language of procurement, how to do business. And I was quiet, just absorbing. And then at a summit and salute, Shirley in April said, I need you to go here, 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 and here, because they know I'm not going to do everything. And I went to the pitch competition and the pitch session, and Lindsay there said, you need to apply for EEP. And I did that, and it was amazing. I met my Peggy Del Fabro at EEP. She's just been a mentor to me, helping me navigate Biddy Webb has been a mentor because this is overwhelming, but I wouldn't have met these people had I not been involved and engaged. And it's this give get thing that we have to do, this law of reciprocity. You do have to work it. It takes a lot of time. It costs some money, but the returns that you get back, once you find your network and your niche, even though it's a big group, you'll have this core that you can rely on, but you're going to have to give it some more time. And the final thing I will say about that is expectations. Attending these sessions, I learned from Randall Dobbins' business partner blueprint that it might take 12 to 18 months to get a contract. And so we've got to level set our expectations. And had I not taken these training courses within our networks, I wouldn't have known this. So just getting information, setting your expectations.
Great. Beautifully said. Anybody else care to talk about their involvement with the networks and the benefits?
I will. I
Donna?
think to be highly successful, you can go to these events and you can meet people, and the follow-up is so important. But the other part is to be present, is that you're part of a local council. You can get on a committee, you can apply for the board. Because when people see you on the board and committees, they'll see that you show up, they'll see that you deliver. And then that's how you build those relationships that are beyond going to a trade show and getting somebody's card or signing up to somebody's website. You do have to make that people-to-people connection to make it work. So that's how we've done it. The other is to make yourself available for speaking engagements, to writing papers, to helping others. We've been able to do that. And that really helps elevate you, because when other people see you, they're like, oh, well, that was really a great thing to say and do, and let me go try it. And they appreciate that. And so before you know it, you're building that trust and network where you want to go to get that opportunity to be connected to the right person and the right decision maker. I just think that's so important.
All right, thank you, Donna. So I'd like to move on to another question, another topic, and this is one it's been on everyone's mind, unfortunately, and it has to do with 2020 and among the many challenges that we have all faced, and many of you touched on this in your profile, but I'd like to ask about how you and your company have navigated your way through the pandemic. So like, how and where are you working, and what measures you may have implemented to keep your employees safe? Vanessa, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. We all know, oil went -30, and that was scary for everybody. And we've been through downturns before successfully. This was something different because we were considered important, and whatever they call it, imperative. Yeah, thank you. And so we had our guys working 24/7 through this whole thing. So we had to quickly come out with a plan to make sure that we were preventing people who were sick, educating everybody on the measures, coming up with like automated systems that could get the information to us as quickly as possible, because these rig sites are remote, and also adapting to our customers' needs and wants, because every single one of them was different. So we did that, and then we had to concentrate on our business to make sure that we weren't going to fail, because it was a very scary time. So what we did was we took our assets that we knew weren't making money, and we sold them, because luckily the construction industry was still going strong. And we came up with some creative financing, and we started buying. We started buying equipment, pennies on the dollar, and people thought we were crazy. And we bought new equipment we've never owned before. Like now we own 5 rigs. And because we bought it so cheaply, we believe, and we're already seeing the benefits of that we're going to be able to be in a much stronger position and regain all the losses that we've had in 2020, because we've been able to buy things at such a low rate. So things are looking up for us in 2021, and we had to act fast too, like quickly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've done.
Yeah, good to hear. And that may be the answer to the next question about some of the best decisions as you made. But before that, Lily, I'd like to hear from you. And yours is a full-blown oil company, and I'd like to hear from you about how you and your company have navigated your way through the pandemic. Where and how have you been working, and what measures to keep your employees safe?
Sure, I agree with what Vanessa said. It was so dramatic and so quick, the drop off, that it required fast action. And I think in our case, our team was really organized. We developed a comprehensive COVID preparedness and action plan. We actually have it up on our website if anyone wants a sample or to use for your own companies. It's a good one, I think. We wanted to make sure first and foremost that our folks were safe. And as an essential business, as a critical infrastructure business, we needed to keep going and keep making deliveries so that our critical infrastructure customers could continue with their business operations too. So I'm proud that we continued operations at all 10 of our locations, and knock on wood, for the most part, we've kept our employees safe and they've kept themselves safe. I think we just have a shared commitment to operating in a safe way. We, thanks to our IT department, we've set up many remote locations, and we have most of our employees working remote who can, aside from obviously core operations folks that have to be in person delivering and moving product. So we had to adapt very quickly. And I think that's the key, is not waiting for the bottom to drop out. When you see the trend, you've got to go. And so I think getting a handle on things as quickly as we could stabilized our business and protected us for the future.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's something that has affected us all. Anabel, any additional thoughts around how you and the company have navigated your way through the pandemic?
Well, the physician in me kicked in pretty early on, and I knew that viruses are not visible, so they can move through a place pretty quickly. So prior to everybody going home, we got IT involved before March. It was 2 weeks before, and the health and the safety of our manufacturing company and of our employees were very important. So we took about 95% of our manufacturers are still, the employees that manufacture the products are here. And the company employees, I would say 70% are still working remotely from home, and 30% are back, and they rotate different days. We brought early on, to UV lighting. We did HVAC air. We set up stations for, we already had Purell stations everywhere. We just increase the access to that more. We provided PPE for our people here. I mean, we just took it as a medical emergency, because we also brought actual testers here twice a week to test our employees for COVID on site. So the most important thing to us was to still provide for our clients what was needed, and because not everybody shut down, right? So that was very important to us. And so that's how we navigated through this. And even though we were going to have the best year in the history of our company, this will be the second best year. So we did not lay off anybody. We did very well at keeping our staff on.
Congratulations. I mean, it sounds like it's one of the joys of having a physician as the head of an organization who really understands how this virus works. So I'd like to move on to the next question, and also dealing with the events of 2020. The one I'd like to talk about now is the social unrest that has occurred in the United States in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd, who we all saw murdered on the streets of Minneapolis, and others, unfortunately, that have highlighted inequities that exist not just in our society, but but in our workplaces and in our lives. And just speaking for myself, it's had a profound impact on myself, not just personally, but in our workplace. And I think the other people who represent the big oil companies would say the same. And so I'd like to ask about the effect of those events on your workplaces, your companies, and how you all are doing business. Donna, can we start with you?
Sure. So with COVID, we're an essential business, but we've sent everyone home to work from home, and we've only gone out to the office if we needed to, and have been social distance. But with COVID in this situation, with the unrest, we've let our employees know that, this is really important that we can get involved and speak up. I think I've sent out a lot of books to people about how to take action. It's one thing to stand by the wayside, and I think a lot of people do that. And now, as Dr. Dana says, it's time to speak up, and we need to correct people when they're making verbal mistakes or human behavioral mistakes. And I know at times, that can be dangerous for people by intervening. But there's a lot of opportunity out there for us to learn how to take care of ourselves and others. So that's how we're handling it. We know our warehouses and carriers that are hauling products for us are also being COVID safe. But we are sending out messages to our suppliers and customers of what we're doing and how things are being handled internally with COVID and the unrest, and how we feel about being a part of the action going forward to make those corrections.
Thank you. Dr. Dana, can I ask you about you and your companies, and how the tragedies of 2020 have affected you and your company?
Absolutely. And thank you for that question. For me, back in the 80s, I was told to assimilate into society, into how things work. When I saw a Black man get killed on live TV, I could not do that anymore. My company, who I am, Dana Wells and Associates, all lives matter to us. And that was just wrong. It was just wrong. And I had to speak out as CEO and principal of my company to say, it's unacceptable. We have to do something about it. And I took the risk, and I put a video out on LinkedIn because that's where I get a lot of business. And I want people to know what Dana Wells and Associates stands for. And so in doing that, I realized I had a group of business owners who felt the same way, and business leaders. So I became one of the founding members of Business Leaders for Racial and Social Justice. And we are here to end systemic racism against Black people. And we're doing that with changing policing policies, ending homelessness, and getting people activated to vote and actively participate in society, to be active members. And it was really important for me to find my tribe who believes in what I believe, because I can't do it by myself. And taking that stand, putting my company in this group, saying that we're a part of this, lets people know, one, we're serious about this. Anyone who works with Dana Wells and Associates, you have to care about humanity and want to make a change. And companies that do business with us, what you see is what you get. We care about everyone. And where there are injustices, we have to speak up. So that's what we've done.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. And I think to WBEng's credit, and I know this was done not officially as WBEng business, but they have early on, they have convened a group of us, both representing women business owners and corporations, on a Tuesday night sort of call to action, which has been going on just about every Tuesday. And it's been, I think, a great experience for many of us who have participated. In either Lindsay or Pam, I know you're listening. If you care to share about that at some point, we can do that. Listen, we are probably about 5 minutes out from when we're going to start taking questions from the audience. And so what I'd like to do is ask one final question of all of you, if you don't mind. And it's sort of a two-part question. I'm interested in your leadership styles. You have a lot in common, obviously. So many great things that you all have in common, but quite different in many ways. So I'm curious about how you go about leading your companies. You think of people who are completely hands-on, involved in every decision, everything that goes on, to others on the other extreme who are somewhat removed from the day-to-day operation. So I'm interested to learn where you fit in that spectrum. And one final question is, what would you say is the best thing you've done or the best decision you've made, in recent times in support of your company? So if you wouldn't mind, we'll just ask each of you that one last question, and we just have about 4 or 5 minutes left. So Lilly, would you mind starting? Leadership style and best decision that you've made.
Okay, I would say collaborative, consensus driven. I watched my dad, who's probably the best example of this style of leadership, do it so successfully. He was always the guy in basketball that would pass the ball and let somebody else score. And that's the type of leader that I want to be. I want to pass the ball. I want the people around me to succeed. I want to help others. And so we have a core group of people. We have a great deal of trust amongst our team, and we work together a long time, way before me. So I think that trust allows us to speak openly. We challenge one another, but usually through that process, we arrive at the right decision. So I prefer the consensus style whenever possible. And then, I'm sorry, what was the second one?
Well, best decision.
Best decision in general or during this time?
Either one. I would say during this time.
During this time, best decision, I think I got to answer in the context of COVID because it's front and center, but I think best decision is moving quickly and not when things are going wrong, like in our case, whether it was oil, the bottom dropping out or volumes dropping out, or, pick your business issue, a division not doing well, a product line not doing well, making the move. So the best decision is, analyzing and then acting.
Great, thank you. And speaking of moving quickly, we just have a couple of minutes left. So if you wouldn't mind just a minute or so to answer, Anabel, your leadership style and best decision.
My leadership style, again, is a transformational leader. I just love to empower people. I have a lot of trust in people and in the type of people that we have hired, empower them, because I'm not a micromanager. I do not step out there and make our instruments by any means. The second thing is, I prioritize faith very much. And the best decision that I've made is the diversification of our company, take us into similar needs for our products, such as, going into the gas, into chemicals, food and pharma. That's the best decision, because I think that's just solidifies what we can do.
Great, thank you. Vanessa?
I would say my leadership style is hands-off. I'm not a micromanager by no means. If you look at the people who are around me, they're self-starters. They're very opinionated. They're not yes men. I actually like to have an argument. I get a kick out of that because I hired them to give me their opinion, not what they think I want them to say. So I feel the best of the best surrounding me, and I have total confidence in their ability to do their job. I'm good at what I'm good at, and they're good at what they're good at. And so that works well. And the thing that I think the most positive thing I've done in recent times for my company was probably, we made an acquisition where we bought all of Trevita's Rocky Mountain assets. And it came with jobs. This was during the pandemic, which was very scary. We onboarded like 30 new people right during the pandemic, but those jobs have continued through the pandemic and have helped us with our cash flow. And so that turned out to be really a great thing. And we had got great employees.
Thank you. Donna, 45 seconds, half a minute.
Yeah, okay. So I like to empower my team. So I'd like to consider myself as an empowered leader. I don't micromanage, but I'd like to inspire and motivate them. in terms of what did we do during COVID is that we pivoted our raw materials that make hand sanitizers to get other people to make hand sanitizers, and then we're helping them sell them. And we also have master service contracts where we have added gloves and masks and sneeze guards to our contracts with our customers. So that's helped us survive through COVID. And it's grown to a point where I'm going to spin it off into a PPE. And I've got a new partner that I've worked with for 10 years on a national board for veterans. So to be a service disabled owned veteran, Alpha Dog. Thank you.
Dana, last word is yours. Dr. Dana.
Yes, so leadership styles, servant leadership, one, because I deal with a lot of executives having difficulty managing change with the mergers, acquisitions, integrations, and then with the team, they have to have that level of independence and grit to be able to come in and navigate those relationships to help clients be successful, and I can't handhold them to do that. Best decision I ever made was 30 years ago when I changed my major from accounting to psychology and niched in this space of helping manage people during merger acquisition integrations, dealing with transformations, because it was the right decision, and joining, being a WBE and being a part of the WeBank network. Best decisions.
Well said. Okay, well, I think at this point, I'm going to ask Lindsay to jump in, and I think that maybe we have some questions from the audience.
We sure do. We have gotten some great questions. So it is that time for all of the unprepared questions that the audience has been throwing at us, and they are some good ones. So so let's get ready. The first question I will ask, and I'm just going to throw it out. I know some of you have family members in your businesses. Some of you have family-owned businesses. I'm looking at you, Lilly. So I'll start with you and then let others chime in. So Lilly, as you have a family-owned business, how do you balance maintaining both a family identity and a corporate identity?
Oh, that's a good question. So, you know, I'm not sure. I could take this question a couple of ways. So the family, we try to separate the two as best as we can. You know, the company has its own identity, a business identity, and, you know, the family has its own composition, its own views, its own, you know, perspectives. But we all have, you know, we share this view of stewardship amongst the family, and that a commitment to the business succeeding for the long run. So that's something that we all share. And then, you know, the business, the identity of the business changes over time, depending on, you know, in our case, the generations that have been there and the folks that run it. And so the family's been a little bit more consistent in its composition, but the business changes.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Does anyone else have family members who are a part of their business that want to respond?
I work with my husband.
Oh,
so,
that's
yeah.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
So we're very different people, and we separate our responsibilities, which is very important. We respect what each other is good at, and we don't get into too much into each other's businesses. I'm still his boss, and we don't talk about business at home actually at all, which amazes a lot of my employees. They're like, well, didn't you ask James about such and such last night? I'm like, absolutely not. I'm done talking about business. So there is a separation there. It doesn't usually leave the office. It's not always that way, but we try not to.
I think Anabel's husband does surgery now. No, I'm just teasing.
Good deal. Another question, and this is to all of you. So I'll start with Donna, and then just kind of going around. Well, actually, I'll just open it up. Donna, I won't put you on the spot. Do any of you have your own supplier diversity programs? And can you speak to that some?
We do have a supplier diversity program, and we do report to many of our customers. And I'm always so excited when we find another WBEA. member. We just found one the other day, so we're doing some new warehousing with the company here in Houston. So we do track it. We do track whether they're certified or not. And then we try to get them certified if they're not. The other is we also list if they're direct or indirect to our customers, direct and indirect. So an example of that is we sell to Toyota and we sell them fuel. So am I selling sulfoline and other products to BP that's going into that same fuel? So, you know, those are the things in that supply chain that I think are very helpful to know. So, yes.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
I think it's important to give back. I think that all of us are women, and I think it is important to find out who, and we do that. We do that. We look for women-owned businesses and the way that do business with them.
Yeah, we love working with women-owned businesses, and I will definitely look a lot harder at a vendor who is a woman-owned or minority-owned business, because many times, honestly, I know they're going to get the job done. I actually have had more success with women-owned businesses than the alternatives. So it's just, I just know this group of women and they're all capable. I haven't met someone who isn't highly capable and intelligent.
Good to know. Awesome. And Lily, I saw you shaking your head as well. So any thoughts with that?
I just agree with everything that's been said. You know, it's a great opportunity to support one another. Whenever we've got that chance, we've got to do it.
Yeah. All right, next question. I will start with Anabel. And it is throughout 2020 with the ups and downs, and I know that you've had a lot of highs in 2020. How have you kept your teams inspired and productive throughout this?
Well, first of all, you know, the first team that I formed, like virtually, was the critical team for handling the pandemic. When all the UV lights were placed in the company throughout the 2 buildings of the manufacturing, and it was finalized that we had stabilized the pandemic itself or anybody being harmed or by any means. Then I went on to forming another team, which is more of a strategic team about what are we going to do. Everybody is virtually online. I said 70% of our actual workers that are not making the products are working from home. So virtual reality has become a real reality. I also feel that it's not going to disappear. The effectiveness, the time saving, I think that we will start to see differences by the second quarter of next year, but I think that it's here to stay. I think that this virtual meetings are here to stay.
Right. Anybody else want to share how they have kept their teams inspired and productive this year?
I will. You know, we immediately, me specifically and my leadership team told our employees that this was actually a big opportunity for us and that we were going to turn it into a good thing and not a negative thing. So with us portraying that and buying and building our employee base and increasing our equipment purchases, that actually did an interesting thing. I mean, everyone was super positive about, I mean, we didn't do it because of that, but the positivity transformed to our employees. And I really believe today that all the work that we have more work in solids control and other areas than we ever have had, because our employees were one of the few that remained positive, that we were going to come out of this stronger than we ever have been. So that did a lot, I think, for their spirit.
Awesome. So that positivity really does, it's contagious in a good way. What about you, Dr. Dana?
Tell me the question again one more time, please.
So how do you continue to inspire and keep your team motivated during this year?
It's interesting when we define my team. So I have a tribe of other WBEs and some other network people, people that I've met in my Aggie network. And we have been coming together to create new opportunities to collaborate. And then we've done some of the programs, like the Traction program is helping me redefine the Traction program that I took through WeBank, by the way, is helping me define what my go forward team, who my go forward team is going to be. So as I'm moving forward, creating those opportunities, it really is a matter of be working with my fellow WBEs, my Aggie network, and creating those roles for people to come on in 2021.
Anybody else want to share on this topic before we move to the next?
Sure, I can answer. I was just going to say we communicate really even more frequently than ever before, and that's kind of kept the team together. We use Teams, we use all the platforms available to gather as frequently as we can, and we during this pandemic time we established a special team that includes people that might not usually communicate with one another, and we get together on a regular chat, and that's kind of I think boosted everyone's feeling of connectivity at a time of such disconnect. There's been a lot of good things that's come out of this period of time, and we're all learning how to do business differently, how to connect differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been a remote worker before the pandemic started, and my connectivity with the team went up when everybody else went remote. So I think that's a good point of higher communication. So great. Donna, did you have anything to add?
I probably went the opposite because, I don't have small children at home, and a lot of my employees do. And so I tried to pull back and know that they're having to homeschool their kids or take them here or there and take care of their family as well as maybe parents. And so for me, I have a lot more time, I think, than they do. I try to inspire them in two ways. One is the fear of COVID that, we're going to have to make it through this thing, right? And whatever we can do to help our customers, ourselves, and our suppliers during COVID is what we have to do. So that's probably the fear side. But the other is to inspire them that there's all new beginnings, right? New technology, new ways of looking and doing things. And so we need to be able to be open to embrace them. So I probably went overboard on that side.
Good to know. All right, this one I'm going to ask all of you, but Dr. Dana, I am about to make your day because the person in the chat geared this directly towards you, and it's going to make your day. So I think you are all a bunch of young, powerful business owners, but this person said, Dr. Dana, as a younger WBE, what advice do you have for other new WBEs to make the most of WeBank's energy industry network?
Okay, I'm going to spoil it. I'll be 50 in a couple of months. So, okay, there's that. So thank you for that. To make the most of the network, you have to get involved. You have to get engaged. You have to get engaged with your local, your regional RPO, your regional chapter of WeBank. Get to know people. Tell them what you're interested in doing, even if you're not there physically doing virtual calls, because we're not there physically anymore. Find your niche. Find what you like to do, what your hobby is, get in there and do it. That way people will know you on a personal level, so you're not trying to sell your services or your products as much. And then if there's an opportunity, once you get to know the group of people, the network, they'll start connecting you. But again, it's this give-get thing you have to start doing. Within the energy industry, one, you can meet these wonderful companies that have been supporting WeBank at conferences, at these events like this. Get on their websites, find out if they have some events that they're having that you could be a part of. Again, Houston Energy Breakfast, trade association meetings, get involved in that space and start meeting people. Let them know what you do. Let them know the value you add and ask for a meeting.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And as we close out, before we bring on Pam Eason to close this out, I'll ask that same question to all of you. So starting with Donna, what advice do you have for new WBEs to make the most of WeBank's Energy Industry Network?
Okay, use the network with getting certified, and then hooking up with some people that today you can hook up to all of us, right? LinkedIn, Facebook, go to our website, and let us know what you're doing. You know, maybe there's some opportunities for us to help you get involved, get on a committee. If you have the time, get on a board if you can. And I think that's pretty much, you got to get involved. My advice.
Next, Anabel.
I agree with all of these ladies, the answer, and very important is to know exactly what the other business, the corporates are asking for. Be able to fill out the applications or whatever they want from you properly. And remember that because you're not first tier, there is a bundling, there is second tier, as Donna said, you know, there's other opportunities out there to get work and to join. And it is hard work, it is networking, and it is time consuming, but there is a, you know, positive effect in the end. I mean, and you will navigate your way through this.
So much. Vanessa, what words of wisdom would you give new WBEs?
I would say put yourself out there at these WeBank events. Go and just talk to people. Go alone and just, I mean, it was hard for me to do that because I'm an introvert, and I just would join a conversation, go, hi, I'm Vanessa, you know, this is what I do. and it created all these relationships, and be involved, give back, you know, because it's a two-way street. And also I would say, be persistent. I know many times I have to make 10 phone calls and 10 emails before I get an answer, and don't give up. And it's not these people's fault that are in the corporations. They want to help you. They're just sometimes stretched very thin because they may be the only diversity managers in their organization. And don't take it personally. Just that's what you have to do. You have to learn to be a salesman, because I wasn't a salesman when I started this company, and I had to learn how to do it. And that's my advice.
Thanks so much. And last but not least, Lilly, what would you tell WBEs that are new to the network who want to get the most they can out of the WeBank energy industry?
I'd say once certified, to take a part. We all have full lives, but to take some time to research not just things on the local level. We tend to be so insular, and I'm guilty of this, but to look at connecting with WBEs on a national level in the energy industry, and to think about people that you'd be interested in connecting with and reaching out, because it's a powerful network, and WBEs generally like helping other WBEs. And so our industry is no different than that. So I'd say just reach out and connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you to our fabulous moderator, Dave Feldman. Thank you to all of you wonderful WBEs. And at this point, I am going to turn it over to WeBank's President and CEO, Ms. Pamela Prince-Eason.
Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. This has been such an inspiration, and I feel like I have a handful of thank yous I have to do first. So first of all, I want to say, you know, thank you to Dave and to Chevron for moderating this amazing panel of women. I always love to hear Dave engaging with each of you. He's such a real moderator. You feel so comfortable talking with him. So Dave, kudos to you. You did a super great job. Ladies, I just learned so much from all of you. It was so great to hear how you lead your businesses, what advice you would give, what you've dealt with this year. Some of you I know extremely well, and some of you I'm just getting to know. So this has been super valuable and fascinating for me. I also want to say thank you to a number of people who are on the call that are from Chevron, BP, Shell, and ExxonMobil, because you are the advisors to Lindsay, to myself, to the WeBank team on how to put things in place that will make WBEs the most effective at doing business with you. And so I see many of you on this call, and your support for each other with your businesses as well as for our WBEs is super amazing. It's one of the things I love about working with all of you. And to the WeBank team, to Lindsay, to Amanda, to Jill. I mean, I could go on and on. Sherry, I think you're on as well. Audrey does great work in this as well. And I apologize for anyone on the team that I may have left off. Today's team is really, WeBank team is spread across work that's going on with Hilton Hotels in the food and beverage industry, as well as, this great panel with Chevron and Energy Week, and all the other energy companies. And so it's so great to see our team engaging so deeply in what's going on in industry. I think it's what makes this WeBank network so valuable to you. And I was so proud to hear each and every one of you talk about what WeBank's meant to you or how it's been beneficial. And that's what we want for every single WBE who is certified by us. I also love the fact that your discussion went everywhere from things about you as a leader to advice you would give to what's been happening with racial and social injustice. As Dave mentioned, as well as Dana talked to very, very well. While we do it as separate of a WeBank activity because of our nonprofit status, Dr. Dana, you're going to have to say the full name for me because I can't get the whole business and racial and social injustice thing out.
Business Leaders for Racial and Social Justice.
Thank you. That group of leaders who are both WBE leaders as well as people in your company who care about this, as well as corporate leaders who come together, and Lindsay moderates most often. It's just been such a great opportunity for all of us who have a strong family connection as workers, that we can also look at each other much more deeply as not only peers, but also the real people that each and every one of us are. I know I feel like Dr. Dana is my sister anymore. And I'm just learning so much. And I feel that way about many of you as well. So I loved hearing the discussion and dialogue go on there as well. Thank you for being this wonderful group of people that you are, that you care about so much of what's going on, not just your business, not just your family, but society around you. And in this energy industry, that's particularly important. I want to tell you that you've been a key part of really lifting me up today. Earlier today, I was also with the food and beverage industry, and they have taken a really tremendous hit, as has the energy industry this year. And as I was preparing for all of this, I always spend my days trying to think of positive things, right? And how can I think of those positive things, but be realistic about what we're going through and that sort of stuff. And so, you look at how tough things have been in the industry, and how hard our WBEs and small businesses have had to fight to take such good care of your employees, like you talked about, and to really lead your businesses the same way you would lead them in good times, right? And as I was going through all of that, I was thinking, yeah, but these industries, they're really going through it right now. It's hard to stay optimistic all of the time, and I'm pretty optimistic. So when I say that, it concerns people. But I want you to know that you have made me truly optimistic in listening to each one of you, because you talked about how you're making steps forward. That's all we want right now is steps forward. Survival is great, growing is great, thriving is great, but to see each of you leading in this strong, powerful way is great. It also makes me so optimistic that our energy leaders are still so committed to what's going on. They know that there's innovation in this group. They know there's agility in this group, and it's just so great to hear that, to see that in the chat, to hear it in various questions. So I'm really optimistic that that your quality and your service still really matters in this challenging environment. And the way in which you go about doing your relationships, it's ultra important. And the leaders that you have to work with on the corporate side are ultra committed. And so that is super optimistic. And then there's such an opportunity for not only what you do today, but innovation in this industry. And so I just want to let you know that I'm very proud to serve you as the president and CEO of WeBank. And it's panels like this where you share information that continue to make us wiser and to understand what it is that you need. So to all of you who have been panelists, you are absolutely amazing and just really lifted the day. And for all of you who were in the chat, who participated in this, great to see you in this industry doing great things. I saw Jane, I saw Peggy, I saw Sandy, I saw Alta, and many, many more. So you guys are amazing. Keep up your great work. This industry is gonna make its turnaround, and it's gonna be because of leaders like you. So thank you for the opportunity to close this out, Lindsay. Again, Dave, wonderful job. And Lindsay, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. Again, if any of you have not checked out the blog, check that out. We'll have one more series of awesome information coming out tomorrow. And I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you all.
Great job.
Thank you.
Dave, you were wonderful.
You're kind. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Each of the panelists were just incredible. You guys interacted so well.
Thank you, Pam. It was fun.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Stay safe.